let's get this started. So, new format for Fan Expo Dallas this year, in case this is your first panel. In an effort to get more fan questions in, we have pre-screened fan questions and had fans submit online. And so I have your pre-selected fan questions, which we will get to as fast as possible. So if you submitted a fan question, we will certainly give you a shout out. But Dante, what's up, man? How's it going?
It's going good.
I feel weird. I feel.
No, they brought your chair. Look at that.
Oh,
look at that.
Boom. Chair. Look at that.
Pull up a chair. Pull up a chair.
That's service. So Zuko's redemption arc is one of the most kind of iconic in animation. I think everyone would agree out here. But what is it like kind of bringing that complexity to life in an animated art form, and did you relate personally to any part of his inner conflict?
That's a heavy question. No, I don't know. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of what the arc was going to be when we started the show. I really thought I was coming on Nickelodeon to be the villain, and I thought that was cool. I was doing a show called American Dragon Jake Long on Disney at the time. Yeah, Jake Long. And I was a hero on Disney. I thought I'd be cool to be the villain on Nickelodeon. But as the show started going on, to really see what was kind of unfolding was really magical. And I was really taken aback by how many layers the show had while we were doing it. But I really, at the same time, didn't think too much of how the impact it was going to have on the world. But as far as me connecting with them, I look back when me and Janet Varney, the voice of Korra, were doing the podcast, Braving the Elements for Avatar Studios. Yeah, shout out to Braving the Elements. And so going back, I remembered a lot of things I personally, Dante, was going through, just trauma and family and things that I were going through while I was doing it. So I think me and Zuko kind of intersected in my life at the right time.
Yeah. All right, Greg. Iroh is filled with wisdom. Is there a piece of Iroh's advice that personally resonated with you, or that you live by, that you've taken into your own life?
You know, absolutely. I have an absolute favorite quote. It's actually from Korra, and you guys have all heard the story, and I'm going to hear it again. My wife and I, we lived in LA for 30 years. The kids were all grown, so we moved back to New Mexico, where I was born. And the plan would have worked perfectly, except we arrived in New Mexico on March 1st, 2020. So 2 weeks later, the world shut down. I distinctly remember I was tired of watching the news, so I had to get out, so I went for a walk, I was walking around, and I'm going home, what have we done? I have kids on the left coast and on the east coast, and it's like, there's no toilet paper, and we're all gonna die, and this is a terrible thing, and oh no! And I heard very distinctly in my head Iroh's voice from The Legend of Korra. If you look for the light, you will often find it. If you look for the dark, that is all you will ever see. And from that point on, that was sort of my COVID, actually even beyond COVID, it sort of became the quote that I always come back to when I'm having a bad day myself. And what I love about that quote specifically, and why it resonates with me, is because it involves an active choice. You could just say on the surface, it's just a way of saying, hey, try and stay positive. But it involves a choice. If you look for the light, and if you make the decision to look for the light, and sometimes the dark is very safe and comfortable, but it's nice to get out of it. And once you do look for the light, you will find that we're literally enveloped by light wherever we look, even at night. You can look up into the sky and see the stars. So I think of all the Iroh's quotes, and there are so many of them, that is when I'm having a bad day, that's the one I go back to.
Wow, that's so beautiful and powerful, and I love that was set up by a story about toilet paper. I love that you took us on that journey. Jack, Sokka is the comic relief, but he's also the heart of the team in many ways.
Yes.
How much, I feel like you're already answering this question in the voices you're using, how much of Sokka's personality comes from you and who you are?
Sokka.
Sokka.
Important.
Yeah, I definitely brought a lot of myself to it. There was a lot of playfulness to the records and stuff. We definitely Mike and Brian told me that they had a different vision for the character before casting me, and definitely wanted to lean into the comedy once they got me in there and were finding stuff. So that's, I try to bring that energy to everything I do.
Yeah.
I tend to.
You're saying you are Sokka?
A little bit. So there's a similar impulsive
Yeah.
curiosity.
Zach, how's it going way down there?
Going
so,
on.
Aang carries the weight of being the Avatar at such a young age. I mean, you started when you were 13 playing this role. It's an iconic character. I mean, you started voice acting when you were 8 years old. So how do you find that emotional depth as a young actor yourself? And was it like kind of growing up and growing into that character?
Yeah, I mean, being the same age as the character minus 100 years, of course, that informed a lot of like the way I approached it. You know what I mean? Like, I was a 12-year-old. I only knew how to be 12, so it came very naturally, right? But in terms of like finding the depth and putting myself in his position, it's tough. You kind of just have to get yourself there mentally, and I don't think, I've been very fortunate in my life. I never had to experience the type of loss that Aang had. So, just hoping that young me was able to do that justice. But it was just such a great experience, man. Just being a character on Nickelodeon was a dream come true for me. And yeah, just, especially being Aang, it's just very special and very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Michaela, we come to you all the way.
So
there.
far away.
Yeah, so your character is tough and independent and so important for representation in the blind community as a female character. I mean, totally groundbreaking in so many ways. What did it mean to you to kind of voice such a strong character, but kind of also kind of bear that weight of what this character would mean to so many fans?
Yeah. First of all, I hear you, Melon Lord, fellow Melon Lord. I am Melon Lord. Have to get it out of the way every time. First of all, I'm just going to give extra love, and if we can do a little round of applause for Mike and Brian, just because they're incredible. We would not be here, you would not be here, and because of their writing, I really think that that's what made my job easy. And I guess I didn't feel like I was bearing a weight of a character because they gave me such a natural, a natural space to step into. I didn't feel like I was putting on a character. I was trying to be tough or I was trying to be blind. These weren't things that were presented to me as like archetypes to fill or archetypes to copy. So I think they did such a masterful job of creating these characters that made it easy for an 11-year-old, a 12-year-old to step into, because saying the lines and being sassy and, just being the greatest earthbender was felt very natural. And it's interesting whenever you see, there are some incredible kid actors who are obviously very palpably talented, but I think I only booked roles that were really well written because I think I auditioned better when the roles were well written. So I think it is a huge testament to Mike and Brian's creation of her, and without her being so naturally tough and naturally badass, I don't know if my audition would have been as good. I don't know if I would be your Toph. So it never really felt, I never felt pressure. And I think that can also be a huge thing as a kid too. When you come into the studio, especially if you have all these talented adults who have had lots of experience, and you've got Andrea Romano, who's an incredible director, you might feel a little anxious, and I never felt anxious. I felt like it was just coming home every Tuesday after middle school. And so I really just thank Mike and Brian and the whole team for making it feel like a comfortable space. And then it was very easy for me to just turn up the tomboy parts of me. I was definitely a tomboy as a kid. And I just turned off the parts of me that were like, ooh, I like wearing heels and going shopping. I was like, we'll turn those down and not pay attention to those. And we'll turn up the bits that are very sassy and opinionated. And it was kind of like, oh, I don't get to have a filter? Awesome. All right. Yeah, let's just yell at people and, keep your knees high, twinkle toes. It was very natural for me.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't want to, absolutely. Yeah. I don't want to take up any more time. I want to get, there was so many great, overwhelming response to fan questions. So I want to make sure to get to those. And I am going to shout out your name. So if you're in the room, cheer, wave your arms so we see you, because I don't want to take away that experience and interaction. And this one is
We'll try to go fast.
Yeah.
Do as many as possible.
We got a hard out at 9. They're gonna close the lights off and they're gonna start cleaning the floor. So here we go. For Greg, this is from Marcus from Dallas. Is Marcus here? Is there a Marcus? You can take this, but all right, Marcus.
Hey, Marcus.
Great question, Marcus. Greg, stepping into the role of Uncle Iroh after the passing of Mako must have been so emotional. How did you approach honoring his legacy while making the role your own?
Well, first of all, I'm really glad when I was cast that the social media was not as toxic in 2006 as it is now, because I probably would have run away screaming. And it's like, no, I don't want it. I knew, though, I had been a huge fan of Mako since 1977. And I knew when I was cast, it's like, you know what, people are going to say, oh, you're trying to, you're replacing Mako. Mako is absolutely irreplaceable. And I think by just admitting that, when people will say to me, well, hey, Baldwin, you know Mako. It's like, no, I'm not. Mako was nominated for an Academy Award and for a Tony. Mako started the first Asian American equity house in the United States. I mean, and if you look at his resume, he has worked, it goes back to Michaela's Navy back in the 50s. I mean, no, I'm not Mako. I look forward to meeting him someday, but not today. All right, give me a little time. And I think it sort of resonates with people that I really am his fan, that I think one of his biggest fans. And I'm serious about it. I could not replace him. All I could do was try to sound like him, which is what they paid me to do. And what I think is kind of funny, Mako, I think he was in his early 70s when he passed away.
Yeah.
And I was 46 when I was cast, and now I'm 64. And I do find that as my vocal cords become the age that his vocal cords were when he was recording, I think my impression actually is improving over time.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Great question. This one is for Zach. This is from Sophia. Sophia, is there a Sophia? Yeah! Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Sophia. All right, yeah, that's better. Sorry, get back to the question here. Aang carries the burden of being the avatar, but also keeps his childlike spirit. How do you balance those very heavy and light moments in your performance?
Yeah, I mean, that's like kind of the beauty of Aang as a character, and as Michaela was saying about the writing, it's a testament to the writing. It's really an actor's dream to have a character that has that much range, But I think that like so much of me was in the character. I was a silly, goofy kid just like Aang, but I could also keep it serious every now and again. But yeah, it was just like it was fun. It was always a good time in the booth. Had some really deep, heavy moments, but got to balance it out with the penguin sledding, and it's all about balance. It's all about balance.
All about balance.
Thank you, Sophia.
This is a question for the whole group from Jordan from Frisco. Jordan, did anyone who submitted a question actually show up to the panel? Jordan? Are you Jordan?
I'm Jordan!
Hey, Jordan. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your question. This is for all of you. How did you first get into voicing?
We're supposed to be fast. I started acting when I was 5 in theater and commercials, and then the agency I was at when I was like 7 opened up a kids voiceover department, and they're like, "Can you read?" And I was like, "Yes." "Can you take decent direction?" And I'm like, "Yes." "Cool, try this voice acting thing." And so I did, and I started doing lots of background voices and ADR and looping stuff, and then I started auditioning for more character roles when I was like 9, 10, and that's when the Meet the Robinsons and like Kronk's New Groove stuff happened. And then Mang in season 1 of Avatar happened when I was like 11, and then Toph came along when I was 12. There we go, Spark Notes.
Nice.
That was good. That was great. Personally, I started acting at 4. I tried to speak as fast as you. I don't know if I could do that. Started acting at age 4. Did a lot of live action, on-camera stuff. Eventually started just going out for more voice roles, and it just worked really well with my lifestyle as a kid on the East Coast, not in LA. It didn't have to be on set all the time. Didn't have to memorize lines. I could leave school, go straight to the booth, and then make it in time for hockey practice. And it's great. Very important.
Yeah, very similar kid actor, on camera stuff. Before I started doing that in LA, that was my LA journey. It was like I was doing on camera stuff, and then they just started sending me VO stuff, and I fell in love with it, loved it. My first actual VO stuff was a local Boston Radio Disney commercial for the after-school program I was at. And I just went to like give a little testimonial, and then I made friends with the guy who ran the booth at the Radio Disney thing, and I just started emailing him ideas for Radio Disney commercials from my personal 8-year-old email.
I can only imagine what that
Yeah.
was.
But they eventually just were like, you can come get a job on, like they hired me then for like a Radio Disney thing. It was not any of the ones I pitched, unfortunately. But yeah, I started doing small stuff back there in Boston, and then moved to LA, and then just went for it.
Are there recordings of these?
I doubt it.
It's like an 8-year-old you like morning Zuko.
Yeah.
Radio Disney.
I'm sure they didn't record anything back then, you know?
Let's hope
You still have access to the email account that you sent those emails from.
Wow. To, should I say? To my Ace Ventura themed 8-year-old email account?
Now you
No, I
gotta
think I
tell us.
should've
What was the email?
I knew I wanted to be an actor since I was a kid. So my wife and I left Texas, moved to LA in '87. By the way, I was raised in Texas, y'all. Anybody here from Texas? Yeah! Anyway, we moved there. You know, I was lucky enough to get my SAG card when I booked 5 McDonald's commercials, and I thought I was rich. And I would have been, but the product was McDonald's pizza. So, you know, but I was lucky I got my SAG card. Then, you know, we had our kids 11 months apart. They were Irish twins. And so I was a little busy for a while. Let the kids get a little older, and then I loved the theater. Went back to do a play once the kids were old enough, and it launched in an elementary school. And I had to do several different characters, and the director said, you know, you're pretty good at this, Baldwin. Why don't you go take classes with my friend Sue Blue, who is also a casting director? And so I did that, and Sue was kind enough and liked me enough to call and, you know, get me an agent. And so from that point, it sort of snowballed, you know, and I'm lucky enough to be up here with these people now. Fantastic.
Dante, it's been very.
Yeah, I was a break dancer in the streets of San Francisco, and I was a b-boy. I went to LA as a dancer. Found out there's an acting town. We ended up acting, became actors in film and television stage, and then tripped into a booth for Disney, and I did a movie called the Goofy movie. And then I did a line in that movie that goes, "Yo, Stacy, talk to me, baby."
That was pretty deserving of a mic drop that you did just there. Also, you're underselling yourself because you were in a little tiny movie around that time called Hook. You can never get away from
Rufy.
All right, that's all the time we have. Good night. We can end on a high note. No. Here's another question for the whole group. And by the way, thank you for your answers. Obviously in Dallas, we have a huge voice acting community with Crunchyroll being based here. So I have a feeling that question was pointed at how do I get into this, and so that advice is not taken lightly. So props to all you would-be voice actors out there. Go do it. Another question for the whole group by Camille from Arlington. Camille?
Yeah!
It's past Camille's bedtime. If your character had a spin-off series all about their adventures after the show, what would it be about? It's a hypothetical.
I mean, of course, finding his mom. But it's in the comic books, but it would still be cool to see it.
I think Sokka would have a great like food travel show, like a Bourdain style.
I want to see just how they turned blue. Like, where did that come from? What? You know?
So funny. You're so funny, Twinkle Toes. Okay. I know we have the comics. Who here's read a lot of the comics? Anyone? Yeah? Okay. So we get some canon stories. So we watched Toph like open up a metal bending academy, and then she like misses bending, and then she like discovers, I'm so sorry, she discovers another kind of bending that's happening underground. Okay, I'll leave it a little vague if you haven't read it yet. But I feel like we see a little bit of it in Korra too. I feel like she'd just go back to like underground fighting, and then like she might retreat with the Badgermoles for like a year and kind of like backpack through the swamps and the forests and not talk to anyone. I think she wants that.
We need like the Real Housewives of Boston.
Oh, they're like that.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
Oh, that's
a
my wife
Bossing
would like that.
sleigh. Bossing sleigh.
I thought about this, you know, in many ways I think Iroh is Mr. Rogers for another generation because the lessons are very much the same. Everyone has worth. You're not defined by your past, and above all else, be kind to be kind to be kind. And I would love to see a show for preschoolers with Iroh, very much in the Mr. Rogers neighborhood realm, called Iroh's Tea House. And it's just literally a series of simple lessons about how we should treat each other respectfully. That is what I would like to see.
I would watch all of those shows. Those are, yeah. Another question for the whole group from Ethan from Denton. Ethan? Yeah, Ethan! Denton, represent. Were there any inside jokes, pranks, or funny behind-the-scenes moments from recording sessions that still make you laugh today? That you can. This is a family-friendly show, so.
Well, mine are mostly tame because I was 12. There were a couple tidbits. I don't know if they were fully inside jokey, but they stick in my memory very, very vividly. One was that if you walked through the front doors and you were just hit in the face with the smell of butter, you knew that there was fresh popcorn in the kitchen and it was going to be an extra good day in the studio, and I always got a big bag of popcorn before I went in. The second is that, like, one of the first times I met Gray, Azula, our lovely Azula, she was she was pregnant with her first kid, and I remember her being so sweet, and she's like, you know, about to be a mom, and then I was sitting next to her and we started recording, and she turned mean, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I was very terrified because I was like, she was so nice, and now she's so mean. And then the third is that Dante rides motorcycles occasionally, and so he would be late with like his leather jacket and his helmet under his arm, and I'd be like, oh, okay. So sorry I'm late, and I was like, we're fine.
Wow, yeah, I still remember. I was like, inside joke just for the fan base. And now that we have, you know, I don't always have a sign person doing sign language. It's Zuko always saying, and I need to see it now in sign language, maybe I can learn is, I must regain my honor. What is honor? Is that honor? That's honor. I didn't know that.
It does look like kind of conjuring an element.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it one more time. I must regain my honor.
Very good. Very good. Give it up for our ASL interpreters, by the way. You should see their muscles. They work so hard all weekend long, so thank y'all so much. For the whole group, another question. This is from Natalie from Frisco. Natalie, are you here? Is anybody named? No? All right.
Be quiet, Sophia.
Yeah, here we go, Natalie. What's the one moment, and I'm sure it's hard to pick one, but what is one moment when a fan story really touched you personally? I'm sure you have a million every weekend at a convention. You'll walk away with a million more here this weekend. But do you have one that really distinctly sticks out? See, they have so many.
I'll start.
Not all go for everything.
A lot of people have very strong feelings about Iroh, and he's universally beloved, and very few things are. And I think that's because we aren't ambivalent about our parents. You know, you either love them or hate them, and I think Iroh reminds people of the father they wanted or the father they were lucky enough to have. And so people, you know, share stories all the time, but there was this one guy I specifically remember. He was telling me about how he was deployed in Afghanistan with search and rescue, and that they were huge fans of the show. And in his barracks, they had a picture of Uncle Iroh, and they would touch his picture for luck before they would go out on patrol. And I heard that story, and you know, people a lot of times cry when they come, but I was crying that day. I was like, oh, I can't believe it, you know. Anyway, that's just one of many.
I remember coming back out of COVID, and it was the first New York City Comic Con, so big, such a big con, and I wasn't even supposed to sign there, and I show up, and then by like lines are like 2-3 hour lines, right? And I'm like, this is crazy. And this one guy came up, and I'm signing his autograph, and he said, I grew up with you. And I said, yeah, man, we all grew up together. I love it. He goes, no, you don't understand. I go, I don't understand what? And he goes, he said, you programmed our generation. I said, what? He goes, yeah, Avatar, you guys. Why do you think we're the generation that brought protests back? The Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter. We're trying to get the world back in balance. And I was like, the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I was like, oh my God.
I had a very lovely interaction at the last con I was at, where I met a mother and daughter who 4 or 5 years ago, the mother had me record a cameo for her daughter who had just started high school and was dealing with a lot of bullying and wanted me to talk to her about the show and the character. And I talked a lot about how Sokka feels so much less. It's Sokka's master, right? The whole idea of him feeling less than because he's not a bender and finding eventually his confidence in what he contributes to the group and whatever. And so I said a nice long thing talking about that. And then they came up to me very recently at this thing and gave me the update of hey, it's 4 years later and I ended up doing great and loving high school and gaining a lot of confidence and just that was a important touchstone for her. And it's just wild that these characters in these shows can be there for people through difficult times. It really blows my mind.
I love it.
I would love to add a couple, is that okay? Just real quick, I'll go fast. Obviously, yes, Toph is blind. And so for just the disabled community in general, I mean, it's not just visual blindness, but just, mental disabilities. Sometimes people are missing a leg. Sometimes they're partially blind, not fully blind. So I've had tons of really special moments with people coming to my table. There was one recently at MegaCon. The name was Saturn, and they lost their vision over the course of from 7 or 8 years old to they're 15ish now. And so they watched Avatar and have the visuals still, but now they're fully legally blind and now it's just static. And she was just you helped me be okay with this happening. And I still see you whenever I hear your voice, and now your voice is what gets me through a tough moment. And I felt so silly giving her an autograph or taking a picture. So I had a little turtle duck on my table. And so I was okay, take the turtle duck. And now anytime you want to remember today, just cuddle the turtle duck and that's me with you. And that was her mom was thank you so much. And I was sobbing and yeah, you're welcome. Trying to get my act together. But yeah, it's really cool being a disabled character that people can find solace in when the world maybe isn't as welcoming. So that's been a huge impact.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. All right, we got a few minutes left. We got one fan question, and we did it, guys. We got through all the fan questions. Thank you for submitting all these great fan questions, whether you're here or not. But we're gonna take you out on a really good one. This one is from Isaac in Dallas. Isaac. Of course, after I said that, yeah, you can be, we got multiple Isaacs in the crowd. Here we go. If you could, this is for the whole group, if you could bend any element in real life, no training required, which one would you pick and what would you do with it first?
Fire. What are we talking about right now? Fire Nation forever. I would cook.
You could be on this travel show.
Be on your travel show. No, just Fire Nation because that's the element for me. Forever.
I am sorry, nephew, but my element is air, man. I'm sorry. And I would fly. I would like to fly. Air is cool. And I just always, spiritual things, I sort of felt myself drawn to that. So, it's the air nomads.
General the second flew with some fire and Cora. We could do that too.
All right, I would say water, and it is not just I always felt very connected to water. And then I would say healing, because I think it sounds really enlightened to say that I would not use it. I would use it in a non-violent way, just for healing. So I'm gonna go with healing.
No blood.
In Cora, there was some fire healers. We could do that. We could do that too.
Some of us don't gotta choose. I'm the Avatar, baby.
I feel a little fire from down there right now. All right, take us out.
I'm a mix of fire and earth in real life, but I think I would choose earth because I need to build my own home in this economy. So that is what I would do.
That was amazing.
Quick little, chill 8-bedroom, maybe give myself a basement, and then I only have to worry about property taxes, right? So.
That was amazing. Well, Fan Expo Dallas, give a huge round of applause. We're past the Last Airbender. Look at that, we finished right on time. We got through all the fan questions. And that marks the end of Fan Expo Dallas.